How big is this problem in the country? A study that was recently carried out on colleges and university students, it showed that the prevalence of drugs among students in the universities and schools, high schools for that matter, is 69.7%. In other words, only 30.1% are not involved in drugs. These are assuming that Christians are not involved in these drugs, that is the CU members. Then in the colleges and the universities, high schools, it's only that 30.1% is what you can call the Christians who have never tasted any of the drugs. The national prevalence is indicating that between 15 and 24 years of age, we have a prevalence of 37.1%. And the current substance use in the country, these are chronic users, is at 19.8%. Alcohol and cannabis, this is banned. It is at 17% and 5.2% respectively. And Kenya national prevalence is indicating that 11.7% and 1.5% of alcohol and cannabis are in use among people who are 15 to 24 years. I want to believe that high schoolers are in that bracket of 15 years to 18 years. The highly abused drug in the country is alcohol and bang. You will find it everywhere. How it is being traded nowadays, it is through the social media, mainly Facebook and WhatsApp. If you want to get anything, recently I was driving across a town, a small town, very small town in Meru, and my brother, who is a police officer, showed me an area where bang is being traded in an open market, and he gave me some code words that I can mention. A very small place, you will not suspect drugs. Give me code words that I can mention and I get bang delivered to me. So it's a very prevalent problem. Let's look at this problem in perspective of God's word and where we fall. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 through verse 27, I am bringing in the man that God created. And I would want to mention that if you looked at my profile, you see that the person talking to you is a proteomist. And a proteomist would look at the body, the impact, the disease, the structure. And therefore, when I look at these verses, I'm carefully looking at the structure and how the structure gets destroyed. So this is the beginning of where the structure came in. Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over the earth, all the wild animals, and over the creatures that move around along the ground. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. What are we seeing here? What God created is now what medical science will give you as the hierarchical order. The body was created in a very orderly fashion. And the fashion is that of the cells, the tissues, the organs, and the organ system. The cells forming the majority. Then this cell connecting to the tissue connecting to organs, then organ system, finally we have a whole human being. Now, if you affect one of them, then the entire structure is being affected. And so consequently, that image, which was made from the beginning, fails. Now, let me bring it home, closer home. In Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 6, I will attach tendons. Now, read that hierarchical order. The tendons are found in the muscles. Now I'm talking of the musculoskeletal system. That is the muscles. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh. This is what we call the organ systems. Various organ systems being put together in the structure of the bones. The context here is that of the dry bones. Come upon you and cover you with skin. This is another system. The way systems are being brought together. Then when the system is put together, then comes two major organ systems, respiratory system and the circulatory system. I will put breath. I am sure the circumstances that we are in today has made us understand the value of oxygen and therefore understand the respiratory system. I will put in the respiratory system and the circulatory system. Once we have the tendon, the movement, the organ system, the coordination, the covering, which is the skin, then the respiratory and the circulatory system, life is complete. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So, what is that master's organ? This is what we have talked about, or what I have just talked about. The cardiac, this is the respiratory and the circulatory. Now the cardiac is the circulatory. The heart is here, again the circulatory. You can see how the circulatory system is set. And this is where things are delivered in the entire body. When you consume something through your mouth, it is through this system, it is able to be circulated everywhere. So that if you pick a piece of ugali, even your nails will benefit from that piece of ugali. Through that circulatory system, courtesy of this organ here called the heart. And then inside the heart is a system of network of muscles, which now will help the contraction and the extraction, either the contraction so that once it contracts, then it is able to push blood across. Then the respiratory system is able to supply tons and tons of oxygen, and then the body is well nourished. So whatever you eat is able to be circulated through this system. That matter Potter's design is now envisaged here. All right. Talking about the master's plan, now I'm bringing the tissues that are very important. These are the primary tissues, the skin, then the connective tissues, which connect between the blood, the bone, the cartilage, the fat. Everything important is connected to the other through what we call the connective tissue. Then we have the muscles. Muscles are usually three. There is one that you find in the hands and in the legs. That is what is called skeletal. There is what we call the smooth that is found in other parts of the body. And then there is the cardiac, which is found in the heart. These are now the types of the muscles that God ensured that you have so that the design, that master's design, works. Then we come to the nerve tissue, a very important tissue in the human body. This one responds to the stimuli. Earlier on, I was called in and I responded because the nerve tissue captured that message, transmitted it, and then after transmitting it, that was transmitted in the brain. Then again, through the nerve system, it was circulated through the entire body so that my hands would know where to touch. Like now, I am doing the presentation. My hands know where to touch because the nerve tissue is active. My hands can move, my mouth can talk, my eyes can look, my mind can think. It is courtesy of that one very important tissue. I would want you to capture this because we'll be mentioning it as we move on. The other tissue is what we call this tissue is made up of three major tissues. There is the brain tissue, there is the spinal cord tissue, there is the peripheral nerve tissue. Those are the three levels that it operates. The peripheral is all over the body. The spinal cord is within the spine of the body, and the brain tissue is within the brain. Now, having formed that kind of a basis, then it is important for us to try to connect and see, put all this in the context of the drugs. What I'm showing you here, still in the master Potter's design, is the way organs are arranged, and the very critical organs. I've listed just a few: heart, liver, lungs, and the brain. These five, they keep on talking together. There is no one time that will not communicate. If one of them fails, then a problem arises. From that one, from the tissues, rather from the organs, now we go to the organ system. The organ system is a way, like now, if I give an example of the circulatory system, it's a group of tissues which are so set to perform a function. When I say circulatory, it means circulating things across the body, either nutrients or air, removing waste also from the blood. Now here the principal one is the blood. There is a piping system, which is the blood vessels. There is the heart, which is the pump or the energy house. So that is how it is said. If I'm talking about the central nervous system, that is the brain, the spinal cord, the peripheral nerves, the synthetic nerves, I'm talking of the connection, the connectivity, so that the thought, my thinking in the mind, affects every part of the body. There are 11 principal organ systems, and I have highlighted in red the very critical ones. These very critical ones, unfortunately, are the ones that are majorly affected by the drugs. When one takes a puff of smoke, one of these organs, at least one is affected. But usually we say at least three are affected at a go. For example, when you take smoke, I'll be mentioning this later on, the nervous system is affected, the respiratory system is affected, and the circulatory system is affected. Three, one puff of smoke. If you take alcohol, for instance, the nervous system is affected, the skeletal system is affected, and the digestive system, in fact, you see them vomiting, then the circulatory system is also affected. So it is so interconnected, such that when one system is affected, the master's pattern design is affected in at least in three areas. Right. Psalms 139, I'll read verse 13, 15, and 16. For you created my inmost being. For you knit me together in my mother's womb. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. What have we read? What are we reading here? This is what I read. Here is the critical cell, right? Day one. You can see day one of fertilization. My unformed body. He saw it. He knit it at that moment. Moving to day two, still he was seeing it as it was developing. Then the entire of what you are seeing, highlighted in yellow, and on my left, it is the unformed body. That is the component that he saw while it was being formed in mom's womb. Then going to my right is the part that now of the formed body. Those people who like causing abortion and other things, they really talk so much about the left side, my left side, where they say that this one is not known, is a mass of blood, is something, is an agglutination, is what, but that unformed body is being seen. And this now speaks to someone who is taking drugs when pregnant or trying to poison someone who is developing. So right from day one, that is life. The unformed body, which we have read in Psalms 139, is there. All right. Now, coming to verse 14, I'll praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. What does that mean? What I'm amplifying is it's a unique being, the beholder of a purposeful beauty framework, which now God designed. That person, if that person gets into drugs, now we get what Jesus was saying, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That one star in the galaxy, if we remove that star in the galaxy, which was uniquely made with a beauty framework purposefully designed by the master, now is falling out. And this now comes to us. If we allow the young people get into the drugs without creating an intervention, then we are losing stars in our galaxy. Right. Now, where is the drugs? Let me take you through a strange scenario. I hope you're going to understand here. Look at this photo. This is the photo of a child, of children, and young adults between 5 years to, you can see 5 years, going up to 20 years. What we are showing you is the MRI scan, magnetic resonance of the brain as it is growing. Now, what you see, the blue is indicative of mature or maturity. When the brain is matured, it becomes blue. The more blue you see, the more mature it is. Now, the brain can be mature, but not be able to make decisions. You can have a lot of brain mass, but not able to make significant gains out of it. So what I'm showing you here in form of white patches are the regions of the brain that make decisions. So thus, what now you are seeing is that at 5 years, the brain is largely immature. Then moving up to some time, going towards 10 years, you can see some bluish forming. There is no white patch at all. That means that decisions cannot be made by a child at around 10 years. Going towards 15 years, you can see the sufficiently blue has formed. And here, between 10 and 15 years, actually when going towards 18, 19, 20 years, our decision-making is so sustained. This is where parents send their children and leave instructions. At 10 years, the children will mainly forget because the brain is not well matured. But then from 10 years, going to 20 years is what we call the moment of influence. You can see at 20th year, 19, 18, 19, 20 year is where the white patches have started forming. Okay? These white patches is now the brain capacity. It's called Prefrontal Cortex. It is the brain ability to make decisions. So somebody starts making decisions around 18, 19, 20 years. That is where decisions, individual is able to make decisions about their life. That therefore means that if children are introduced to drugs from the age of 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, even 17 years, they are going to flow into it without ability for them to make decisions. So that brain, their brain has not matured, and therefore they'll just follow in as a way of maybe lifestyle. If you tell them this is lifestyle, if you tell them this is the design, if you tell them that this is how we do things, if you tell them that this is the current fashion, they'll just follow. Their brain is getting matured yet, but they cannot make decisions because the brain has not reached that level. Now bring it closer home. Now I'm showing you the android You can see this is a teenager's mind or brain, and this is an adult's brain. Now, there is a region. This region is called Prefrontal Cortex in the frontal part of the brain, right? This brain is matured, is a teenager, is getting matured, but it is very emotional. They see things and they jump at them. When they see a white dress, they will love the white dress. When they see a pink dress, they will love a pink dress. Or when they see trousers that are made in a pipe way, I hear them, they call pencil or something, they just like, they follow things. They don't know which is it that I would want. So that is where decisions are made in young adults and also teenagers. It is called prefrontal cortex. An adult, the decision-making region of the brain is called amygdala. Amygdala is now another level where the brain's decisions are made. This is where you interrogate things. I'll tell you that this is nice. Then you ask, what do you mean by nice? What is nice? What's the definition of nice? And then I start looking at other options. Then I make a decision on whether to join or not. So this is where most adults are found. So you can see the difference. Therefore, if I introduced drugs, cannabis for instance, to the people listening to me, those who are above for 25 years, their brain capacity is clear. And it may take a long time, even if I preach as much as what, it will really take a long, long time to enlist. Whereas if I bring it to the youth, I'll get like 80 or so % of them joining. That is where the brain capacity is. And again, this is important for us because when you start counseling, now you know the ability to make decisions. Now, something interesting here. Look, the region that I've indicated, now we are in the brain. Remember we saying that the drugs are psychoactive. That means they start affecting the brain. Now we come, and as we talk about here, look at the London's the master porter's design, which we have just mentioned, the hierarchical order, which was set in. And also you look at the design, the master design of the stars in the galaxy and the way the drugs will affect them. Now look here. If you look at this region of the brain, you see that this is where emotions, the taste, the what, things start there. If you start feeling hungry, I will ask you, what food do you want to eat? You tell me, I want chips. That taste of chips rings in your mind. The place where it starts is here. It is called nucleus accumbens. That's where it will start. Therefore, when it starts in there, it will move through the brain, and then you will say the food was good or the food was not nice. All right, look. The taste of chocolate, it started here. And now for you to say that you like another chocolate, or like I give you 2 or 3 chocolates, you tell me it's enough. Let me just take 1 or let me take 2, and then you say it's enough. There are people here who like sausages. You take 1 sausage, you take another one and say it is okay. I want you to create that difference. Now look at the flow. Inside here, whenever you want something, like you tell me you want sausage, the brain releases a chemical which you call dopamine. This is the one also that responds to things related to pleasure. Like I tell you, you look smart, and you tell me thank you. Your body is able to concentrate this chemical, and then you behave normally. Now, if I tell you you are nice, you are alike, then you realize I am going beyond. Or sometimes I'm exaggerating. So you tell me it is enough. Thank you. Now, let's move on to the same region again. We have said that is the region where the taste and the expression of need is expressed in the brain. Look, here again, the same system. drugs, they use the same pathway, similar pathway. But now, what happens here is that at this point where I am pointing here, remember the desire started from the first point where I'm pointing, going up here. When it comes here, the chemical I mentioned called dopamine increases, so that the information that is passed in here is pleasure and super pleasure. Okay? That's now the difference between the drug and the food that you eat. For the food, the drug is introduced here. Either the chemicals, dopamine, comes in here, and you say, yeah, that is nice, and it is transmitted there enough. Then you get satisfied. But now here, it is not enough. It will continue. That is, now what we are looking at here is what we call the brain reward system. We will see that every drug will affect the brain reward system. At this point here, now this region in between here and here is a region that is called wow region. And when the drugs are taken, then the wow region is destroyed. All right, let's look at it. Now the drug has come, it has got there. Oh yeah, I have the wow there. You can see the wow. That's when you say, yeah, when I take a puff, I'm okay. And then the wow continues to attract the drug, the chemical, dopamine, and then you get a surge. And that surge tells you that you'll keep on getting pleased, that taste will become better and better as you take more and more of it. Notice, if what entered, if I remove the one drug here and I put food, now what happens is that the dopamine surge will not be there. There will be just an ordinary level of dopamine, and then the dopamine will pass through the wow region, getting up here, then it will tell you it is enough. And it is difficult for me to get you eating 2 plates of ugali. It's difficult for me to get you eating 3 pieces of sausage, because already the wow region will have told you it is enough. Now getting more of it, it doesn't give you extra pleasure. But the drug as a way of cheating and overwhelming the wow region, so that the wow region is told you, the more of it you take, the more pleasure that you get. What happens? That region collapses. Once that region collapses, then the drug takes dominance. The region wow, the nerves that connect there, they become insensitive, so that this program is sustained by the drug. So that if you are taking alcohol, you cannot operate without the alcohol, because now the reward system is dismantled. And therefore, what you see here is that, look at the areas that I mentioned and what they do. That wow region has several other functions in the body. One of the functions is the emotion and the behavior. It is also responsible for learning. When you are teaching a student, for those of us who are teachers, and you realize the student is switching off from you, it is because the wow region has been bombarded by other factors. The only thing that can cause the wow region for a normal person to switch off from you is hunger, because the signals of hunger will come here, and then the hunger overwhelms here, and then the person goes and eats, and you are ready to learn again. Controlling of the body movement, early learning and memory processing, then attention. If the wow region is destroyed, I don't think you agree with me. If somebody is lost in drugs, even getting drunk with alcohol, you see the emotions, you see the behavior, you see the person is not able to control movement, you see the person will start forgetting things, and then you also see the attention state is lost. And that is where I'm saying there is no safe high. Okay, look at this. What happens with continued drug use? The wow region is overwhelmed. Now the tolerance levels are overwhelmed. The withdrawal now starts developing, and Once the wow region is affected, the taste of everything else is lost except for the drugs. So if I ask you how sausage tastes, you'll forget. But you remember how cigarette tastes. You remember how cannabis tastes. That is where, now look, when the wow region is destroyed, what happens? Look at these two images here. This is the healthy brain. And you can see the red patches and the yellow patches sufficiently there. This is now the decision-making component, the behavior, the movement, which we have said is found in the wow region. Look at the drug abuser. The ability to produce the chemicals that we talked about is lost. The taste is lost. The behavior is lost. The movement is lost. Now, this function is sustained by drugs. So this person can only live by taking more and more drugs. All right. Finally, the system breaks. And I think I have explained that already. And the brain cells become damaged. The brain now starts dying. And the person becomes more and more irrelevant. A molecular switch is thrown in the brain. Molecular switch. So that now you get a mole of something, a mole of LSD, a mole of cannabis, a mole of amphetamine, or a mole of something that can now make somebody function. This is where somebody says, sioni, if you have heard those people drink, wanasema sioni, paka nikunywe kitu ni, sometimes they call it lock, wacha nitoe lock. And that is now where the wow region is actually affected. And I think now this is what I mean. When the molecular switch comes in, the person becomes a drug addict, there is loss of control over drugs, then there is compulsive drug-seeking behavior. It becomes compulsory. The person is wholly dependent on the drugs. Addiction is a brain disease. I think now I have been able to explain that. What have we said about the drugs and the teens? I see my time has run out, so allow me to dash over things. It will interfere with the neurotransmitters. It will damage the brain connection. It will reduce the ability to experience pleasure when the system is broken. It will bring problems with the memories. It will cause missed opportunities, ingraining expectations of unhealthy habits into the brain circuitry to inhibit development of perpetual abilities. And thus now a very young person is lost at that point. Let me give you a few other effects. You realize that in the Bible, during the Bible times, we didn't have the issue of the drugs, so they are not mentioned directly, but we have the admonitions and instructions. First Peter in his letter, chapter 2, verse 11 to 12, he says, "Beloved, I urge you as aliens and strangers." He's talking to the Christians and he's telling them in the world, you are aliens and strangers. Alien and strangers are synonyms, so it's an emphasis. To abstain from the fleshy lusts. This is where I would find drugs, some lusts, which wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that in the thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may, on account of your good deeds, as they observe them, glorify God in the day of visitation. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 18, "Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery, that is, indulging in passions without restraint." And that is what we have mentioned about the drugs. Instead, be filled with the Spirit, so that there is an effect, what I call displacement effect, well spoken in Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, where you get to bring in the word of God to displace the evil, even the desires, the imaginations, and those things that we feel that the human flesh wants us to drive ourselves to, can be displaced by the word of God. Again, Paul gives us this instruction that our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, and therefore the Holy Spirit indwells in us. We cannot mix that Holy Spirit with the drugs. And he says, be careful, live not as unwise, but live as wise. I defined the drug, but remember, I'm putting an emphasis, anything that will cause changes in the body or the mind functions. A quick look. The drugs, there are three major levels or categories of drugs. The stimulants, which cause a speed and overdrive on the brain. There are antidepressants, those that slow the activity of the brain, and are those that cause the brain to lose its consciousness and start distorting auditory system so that you can start hallucinating. You see things that are actually not there. Look at this. This is a study that I was doing. I looked at two parameters, the blood levels and the biochemical levels of a human being, and I picked three individuals. A youth who is on drugs between 14 to 25 years. Some of them came from Kiambu County. A geriatric, this is a person who is aged more than 70 years, and a person suffering from diabetes, ugonjwa ya sukari. Then we mentioned certain parameters in common. And these parameters, if you look at them, I want you to look at these two columns, the ones where I'm moving my cursor. You can see a youth, like hemoglobin, they compare for a man more than 70 years and a youth between 14 and 25 years. You can see the comparison here. In simple terms, what are we seeing? What we are seeing is that a youth who is involved, someone 14 to 25 years, if people get drugs from that level, they will be, in a short while, they will be equivalent to a person who is 70 years old. That is the level of engagement that you can see among these men. This is the cigarette and the chemicals that become toxic in the body of a human being. This is the effect of the drugs. You can see this is a cancer in the throat. You can see the tongue, how the tongue is affected. Nicotine, this is a cigarette. The lungs, you can see the lungs of a smoker and the lungs of a non-smoker. If a person continues to smoke, you look this way, and the person who doesn't smoke looks this way. The lungs, we are talking about the lungs. Alcohol, as I talk about alcohol, I will summarize it with this diagram here, the effects. You can see it is affecting the brain. It's causing the throat cancer, the mouth cancer, the esophagus, the heart, and the high blood pressure. It can also cause stroke. Liver is affected. Remember now the master design, which talked about stomach problems. The organ systems are getting affected. Look, this is now alcohol causing the organ system. How many organ systems are affected here? There is the musculoskeletal system, there is the reproductive system, there is the digestive system, there is the respiratory system, there is metabolic system, there is the circulatory system. You can see the respiratory system, you can see the central nervous system. Now that is destroying the master potter's design, which we talked about earlier on. Allow me to take you through the pictures of people that you have taken over time who have been using drugs. All right, these are the major effects. Oxidation, where it affects the DNA, the proteins, and once these are affected, it changes the DNA structure. And once the DNA structure is changed, you will start seeing the difference between your great-grandfathers and the children that are being born today. Toxic, leading to carcinogens. The carcinogens are cancer-causing substances. Increase in breast cancer, and then you get obesity leading to diabetes. If you bring me somebody who is taking drugs, I'll give them something that looks like the drugs that they are used to. It is called therapeutic intervention with non-peptide. That is, it's a drug that looks like a drug. If it is bang, I'll give you something looking like bang, but doesn't have the active ingredients of bang. And I'm trying to cheat your memory that you are taking bang, but then with the time, it starts, then gives your brain an opportunity to return the wow region or reconstitute the wow region. Once the wow region is reconstituted, then the brain gets to function and the person heals. But that's quite a journey, dependent on how long somebody has been involved. The worst problem that you can get is what we call pulmonary embolism. This is blood clotting as a result of lack of sufficient oxygen. Wherever the blood clotting occurs, it can be very dangerous in your body. Mouth. Look at how the mouth is affected by the drugs. On my left here is the dry tongue. You can see this tongue is almost cracking. These are real photos. It's almost cracking. You can see. Look at inside the mouth of this guy. You can see it turned completely black. Okay. Brain cancer is there. This is a tumor that is forming. Remember, this is the ultimate area where the signals are being interpreted. We said in case of food, this is where you read the word enough. If it's a taste, you are told that it's enough of that taste. Now the tumor develops there. This is where the wow region is found. The wow region is not able to supply here, and the tumor develops. This place is completely dead. Okay, stomach, there is colon cancer. There, the cancer is developing. This is how it looks like when now it becomes cancerous. This mostly occurs when people are drunk in alcohol. Look at this mouth, the mouth cancer. You can see inside here, all right? And also there, the mouth cancer as a result of the drugs. Muscles also, they are affected. Muscle cancer, intramuscular, and you can see this person has developed a problem, a wound here, a big wound is called an abscess, and now it cannot be able to move. These are high drug users. Coming here, you can see the bladder cancer again, inside the bladder, affecting the kidneys. Again, the waste production becomes a problem. Loss of skin. I'm sure this is common to some of us. You've seen people with this kind of a skin. This again, as a result of drugs, we get these effects. I picked this text in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 38, and I highlighted some ones. We went out into the field to gather herbs and found wild vine. He gathered some. Though no one knew what they are, he poured it in the pot, they began to eat it. Well, I'm highlighting this major area, though no one knew what they were. They experimented with their bodies. What happened? They started crying, "Man of God, there is death in the pot." So for us to be able to avoid this death in the pot, we need to escalate ourselves to that level where we say we will not be destroyed because of the lack of knowledge. We have already said that drugs will kill that appetite region, and therefore the appetite is lost. And that's why I brought this again as in the test here. If you trust in the Lord with all your heart, leaning not in your own understanding, acknowledging God in all your ways, the Lord will make your path straight. But now the key thing is what am I highlighting here, verse 7, and 8. This will bring health and nourishment, which the drugs kill to your bones. Remember, we said the bones are affected through the musculoskeletal system. Well, brothers and sisters, allow me to bring it to an end at that point so that I can welcome a few questions. Thank you. Belinda can take over.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thaimuta. Exactly, Thaimuta.
Right.
Some of us, the wow part of the brain has been overwhelmed, and we are still reeling from the kind of information that we have received.
All right.
Yes, and you've spoken so much within a very short time. We just want to thank you. But to my colleagues and friends, this is a time for questions, comments, whatever you did not understand. Like I will shoot mine. Mine will be the first one, and I'll allow, because I've not seen any comment. I would be interested in like just to speak about myself, being in church. I'm trying to help a friend who is alcoholic. He is not. He's not very open about that. But I've been asked to see how to help him, and so how do you help such? But that's one question. Let's hear other questions, because we are concentrating. We are trying to concentrate on student ministry, youth ministry, and that kind of thing. But that's one of my questions. Yes, please. Peter Muraya, I can see you fidgeting in a manner suggestive. You can unmute.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
Thank you, Daktari, for all that good sensitization lesson. I have a question. I hear that to those people that take cannabis, if you take one puff, it takes quite a while of time before it is removed from your brain. Is that true?
Okay. Dr. Zakayo, please note that. And I want to read, if you don't mind, I will read 2 more questions, and then you can answer the 4 questions, if you don't mind. Any suggestions of good rehabilitation centers for the already addicted persons? That is the 3rd question. A 4th question, how do you discourage youth trying drugs? Keep the questions coming, but Dr. Zakayo, please, you can handle that as I get more questions coming. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would start with how do you discourage the youth from taking drugs? Well, like I showed you earlier on, the brain development of a youth. That brain is sustained by decision from another quarter. Another thing that I didn't have time to discuss with you is the brain dichotomy. So that I will tell you at the end of what you call teenage, when the brain starts maturing. And also at the same time, it is the area of learning. So that if you held a session, like in church, you have a meeting for the youth, and you tell them, do not take drugs. This is what
just to interrupt you, Dr. Perry.
Yes.
Yes, whoever is not speaking should mute himself. Peter, mute yourself. There's a lot of... thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So I was saying that the moment you train a youth, they will stop taking drugs. But there is a catch here. Remember, the world is also training them. The person bringing them to drugs is also trying to win them. The key thing that the youth would want above the 10 years of age is credibility. If these people can learn to trust you, if you are a trustworthy person, if you are a person of authority, and you told them do not take this, they will believe you. Now, the strange thing is that the brain has that wow region, has a very strange, interesting factors for the teenagers. I didn't have time to explore it. What happens is that the moment you teach them and you tell them, like you show a picture, the ones I was showing you, the dry tongue, this is because of the drugs. The throat cancer, this is because of the drugs. The youth will not taste it. And even if they are given it and they try, they will feel the bitterness of it. They will start seeing the cracked tongue. They will start seeing the cancer developing, and they will not take it again. Actually, they will come back to you and tell you, you know what, I did a mistake. I took a puff of bang. Now, so the key thing is training, teaching, demonstrating, and they like facial things. Like now, if you're carrying some photos and show them the photos, it speaks much more than the notes that you can write to them. So that is the major way of discouraging the youth from taking drugs. For a youth who is taking drugs, maybe that question will come: how will you stop a youth who is already taking the drugs? I will tell you what happened in a school that I started this ministry. Actually, I started this ministry without knowing and started it. A young boy at Form 2 came to me after Sunday service and told me I take drugs and I am taking bang. And actually, a lot of Form 4s and Form 3s are taking drugs. I discussed with this boy, and I realized that he has reached a point. Because now, the other thing that you do is to do a diagnosis. Find out how long this person has been taking the drugs. If the person has taken the drug continuously, a puff a day for 60 days, the wow region is completely destroyed. Now, what you need to do is to refer this person to a rehab. This person can be helped fast. If the person is not a regular taker, then it means that this is a person at the experimental stage. And with the experimental stage, what you can do is you find out what the person knows. Now that is where we start counseling. How much do you know about the drugs? Why are you in it? How long do you want to be in it? And engage them to give you the answers. Don't tell them it is bad. If somebody has been smoking, ask them, give them an opportunity to teach you about the drugs so that you can see the gaps and you fill the gaps. And that way, again, the moment you help a youth to fill the gaps, and I've tried this several times, they will stop it. I wish I can take you to a school. I don't want to mention details of, I didn't have the authority to mention, but we have helped a school where, like, I will tell you, the entire Form 3 and the entire Form 4, that is like 60% of the school population was in drugs. The moment the youth, it is easier. And the moment you start teaching them some alternatives, whether you give them an opportunity to teach you, give them an alternative, you'll have a breakthrough. The other question is about a rehab. Rehabs are very few in this country. Actually, I wouldn't pick some because I have not seen success stories of rehabs. What we see after somebody has gone through rehab is a relapse. What you call relapse is somebody gets showing signs of recovery, you have recovered, and after a short time, the person gets back, particularly after leaving the rehab. The best way I would recommend is once you realize somebody is taking drugs, it will be important to direct this person to Christ. And I have a reason for this. The moment, even before taking somebody for rehab, bring in something about Christ to this person. What happens with time is that while they are going through rehab, the mind starts getting reconstituted. The wow region comes back to life. What will happen is that these guys will start looking for the answers in Christ. Because what happens after rehab, somebody is left at an empty point, at a vacuum. You don't know what to do. The people who are introduced to Christ, they have something to cling on. Therefore, for those of us who are in this session and you want to help a youth, I'm talking of a youth, not an old person, a youth, the moment a youth is going to a rehab, follow this person with Christ. Because when emptiness strikes, the person will cling on to Christ. Yes, I was told that cannabis sativa actually lasts in the brain. Yes, what happens, if you remember I told you about the chemical that is called dopamine. Cannabis sativa removes the chemical called dopamine. Actually, it looks more or less of dopamine. And dopamine has all the issues of emotions, excitement, laughter, getting angry. And so it removes that component and fits in there. The other drug also that fits like cannabis to mimic a human brain system is Mira. Mira has a component called amphetamine, which also suspends the normal brain operating system. These are problems we call systematic. Systematic is that it comes into the body and looks exactly like it cheats the body so that the body assumes it is part of it and then embraces it. So that way it is true, the bangi can remain in bland system. The effect can remain in bland system for more than 4 hours. So the observation here is actually true. How do you help someone who is taking alcohol and is not open about it? With alcohol, how would you help someone and the person is not open? I wish the person is open, because usually within drugs, not many people would want to be helped, even if they are crying for help. There's a point that you get and becomes difficult. I think the best thing that you can do is to bombard this person with facts and tell them that the direction that you're taking is not right. Briefly, then maybe I will stop there.
Asante sana daktari. I want to ask one more question. I think you did answer about, is it true that one puff of a bang takes quite a long, it's a while of time to get out of the brain? I think you answered that. If you didn't, you may just want to touch on that. But there is a question here. Oh yes, I'm reminded by my wife who is seated with me that you said it takes 4 hours. Thank you very much. There's a question here. What is the average cost of rehabilitating a youth who is a drug addict? And another one, are there faith-based or government UK good affordable rehabs? That's from Degwa Naivasha. I think you had also mentioned about it, but you can repeat. Especially, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yes, about the average cost, it costs between 100,000 to 300,000. That's the rehabilitation. I have not taken time to look for private-based rehabilitation centers, but there is the government-run one at Madare Hospital, and they are able to sustain the systems. They are able to ensure someone has recovered. There is also another center that is at Moi University. The beauty of this is that you have individuals who are running with the right or with the on-spot messages or research and current data, so you can be able to get on this. However, about the private ones, I do not know the private. I've not taken time to search for them, but I can look for them and share with you as I share the notes. All right.
Thank you very much. I want to still open it up for one comment, maybe or two, and because in less than 10 minutes we should be winding up. If somebody wants to ask a question, ask it now.
Well, there is not a question.
Yes, Doctor, continue.
Yes, then allow me to run you through quickly the the differences of the brain system that you can be able to, that can inform counseling, particularly for a youth.
Yes, do it. How much time can I give you?
It depends on you. This is now your bonus.
Yeah,
this is your bonus.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Okay, let me do 5 minutes.
We'll be stopping in the next 10 minutes, so you can do 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
I'll do 5,
and then,
yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
I don't know whether you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
Male and female brains. You can see
yes,
that?
we can. It's the reading that might be small, but we are seeing some nice patterns.
I'm going to watch about this one. Now, if you are handing a girls' school and a boys' school, and both of these schools are involved in drugs, the approach to the people who are abusing the drugs should be different. And I'm looking at 4 areas that you can be able to bring in your ability to counsel them. One of them is what we call processing. It is important for you to know that inside the brain, there are 2 faculties. One is called gray matter, another one is called white matter. The gray matter is where the man's activity is localized. It is domiciled. And this one has a problem. It is localized. In other words, gray matter it only translates things in a channel, in a direction. It is unidirectional. This is now the thinking system of a man. So that you have always seen that if a man is in the middle of doing something and you ask him a question which is not related to what he's thinking about or what he has been doing, what is likely to do is that you will have to stop what he's doing and then process your question and then give it an answer. This has an advantage. It becomes easier to teach boys than girls. I can tell a boy stop and the boy stops. When it comes to girls and women, they think through white matter. White matter is a system. It has it's a system where the thought system goes through a channel. And therefore, they are able to see several things within the same time. Their processors are able to work out many things. That is why you say women are multitaskers. So that if I ask a woman when there's something and she's doing another thing, she will still be able to answer me while she's still planning on continuing with her process. It will not be interrupted. What does that mean to counseling of girls? You cannot simply tell a girl stop. You will have, the girl can tell you I'll stop and manage to hide herself through the system. Particularly if you are a man, you can be easily cheated. She will cheat you and then continue taking drugs but away from your eyesight. Therefore, how would you do this? I think now I'm delivering on that question of counseling the youth. When you tell a girl stop, you need to sit down with the girl and find out whether she understands what you said. You need to stop. If she's not able to open up to you, then the next thing that you do is you turn to someone, a person of authority, a respectable person. You can tell her who is your best teacher in this school. This is so-and-so. If it's Mrs. So-and-so, then you talk to Mrs. So-and-so and say, can you follow up this girl? The moment they follow up the girl, then the girl is going to help. The lady is going to help the girl. The other thing is the chemistry. Now, the way the body functions is connected. The brain is connected to several neurochemicals. For men, they have one major, testosterone. The second one, which is very low, is called serotonin. This is the one that has to do with the mood, with the excitement, with what. This is where you see that men are not so conscious about the makeups, the chemicals, the dressing, the what, you're likely to see a man wake up in the trousers that he was with yesterday, and still doesn't mind. The ladies have much more of this. Now, it shows this is what gives the man the masculinity power. And again, the ladies here, they project the weaker power. And now what happens? The ladies have the highest level of chemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin is relationship. It's the one that creates a relationship between you. Like milk, mother's milk has highest level of oxytocin. And when the child suckles that milk, they build a very strong bond between the mother and the child. Now, the lady is weak. That is what we are reading. The man is strong. The man is less connecting or less relational. The lady is strongly relational. What does that mean in terms of counseling when it comes to drugs? When it comes to drugs, is when you tell a boy behave like taking drugs. That is. But then, if you tell her that you no longer be, if this lady, like for example, respects you as a father, or gives you that the fatherly respect, and you tell her, if you continue with this behavior, you will not be my friend. If you tell a boy like that, he may not mind. If you tell a girl like that, that means a lot. A girl is likely to cry. And that is what, again, another area that you can use the brain power to help. Structure. Another area. By way of emotions and senses, but males are poor in terms of senses, and therefore they will not connect strongly. So what will you do again when it comes to counseling here? Like I said, when you tell a girl that I'm going to tell you and dad about this, it is very weighty. All right. Then the last thing that I'll mention is the blood flow. The blood flow. Females receive a lot of blood in their brain, and that sustains their system. That's how they are able to talk. That's how they are able to manage their relationships. That's how they are able to move in. Now, men, they have very reduced flow to the brain, and therefore they not have this kind of strong activities. Again, when it comes to drugs, then it means that when a woman takes drugs, then it is likely to saturate the brain faster than that of a man. Well, I think that is where I can just stop. I say that this is a bonus for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thaimuta. By the way, the slides seem to have stopped, but maybe it is okay. For members, I can assure you that we shall have the notes, the content in our website, kscfquit.org, and also the recorded. There's a team that is doing the recording. I hope that it will go well, so that we can also put it the YouTube. Really, we can put it on YouTube, and the link will be again on our website. For Dr. Thaimuta, I just want to ask one of us. I saw Jane Mureithi, the daughter of Kamondo. If you are still with us, I don't know whether it's your husband using your phone, but you may just unmute, thank Dr. Thaimuta for us, and pray. But just before you do that, as you are unmuting, Dr. Thaimuta, we might consider calling you again. I think there is still unfinished business.
It will depend on the appraisal system.
You have whetted our appetite, and probably with further consultation, do not get surprised if we come back to you. For members, That's we are flexible. The steering team is flexible, and I think what I would encourage is that if there are questions, put them on on WhatsApp, because we have our WhatsApp thing. Adrian will be helping us on that, and possibly we'll consider whether to send the questions to Dr. Thaimuta or even call him. Just continue.
That is Jane, for me.
Yes.
Remember, my knees were trembling when you see name of the level of El Danganga here. Of course, there's a cost to tremble.
Dr. Nganga, brother El Danganga is a student like me, so we have learned not to tremble. We learn together with him. But
all right, okay.
Awesome. Jane, are you with us? Okay, Peter, unmute and asema asante kwa daktari and pray.
We also appreciate someone you can see there called Joroge, who is streaming us from the US. Who said that you'll be able to follow this lesson as a way of sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the likes of Joroge and others. I can see quite a number of names whom I don't know. I think in the interest of time, I would have really wanted all of us to introduce ourselves. But let me mention, even as Peter Muraya just concludes by way of a vote of thanks, that we will meet again in another 2 weeks. We have a number of topics that are designed for people ministering to high schools, like patrons, Christian teachers, non-teachers like me, and probably somebody else. Same time, that is 7:15, and there's a link. There's a link that is always sent by our brother, and you can, just in case you are not in the group, you can consider also KEAT. KEAT is Synagogue Evangelistic Associates team, so KEAT.org, and I believe we shall be trying also to post a link in the same place. But thank you all. Peter Muraya, please. And unmute. Yes, unmute and just give a vote of thanks and pray.
Thank you, Brother Wachira. I may take this opportunity to thank Dr. Zakayo to have had a time to come and speak to us in this very important topic to us who go to the students. And we have noted that this is a problem that is really found in high schools and even in our community. We thank you because of the way you took us through. May God bless you. We thank God that we have friends like you, that when they are called upon, they are ready to come. God bless you and your family. I also want to thank the members who are able to avail themselves to be able to come and actually listen. And thank you because of the questions that you forwarded. And we thank also Brother Zakayo for the way he answered them.